or
I
what?
I took him to, because I was tied up on the day. I took him to like the Sugar Factory.
Is that a strip club?
Do you ever wonder what goes on behind the scenes of the most talked about feuds in hip-hop? When the founder of Black Mafia Family, Demetrius Big Meech Flenory, joined forces with Rick Ross for a major comeback event, the internet went wild, and not just because Meech was fresh out of prison. 50 Cent, who played a huge role in bringing the BMF story to television, suddenly lashed out with accusations of informant deals, hidden betrayals, and decades-long secrets. Now, we're left with a boiling question. Has Big Meech truly sold out, or is 50 Cent just fueling drama to protect his own interests? In the next few minutes, we'll peel back every layer of this messy situation, starting from the legendary rise of Black Mafia Family, right up to the most eyebrow-raising allegations about government informants, shady record deals, and secret phone calls. As we move through each section, you'll see how all the puzzle pieces fit together, and how the lines between loyalty and hypocrisy can blur in an instant, because in the world of BMF, trust is the scarcest currency, and when enemies align with your old friends, you quickly find out who's really on your side. Keep watching, because what you learn might change your entire perspective on these hip-hop power players, and raise tough questions about what you'd do if your freedom and fortunes were on the line. Let's begin. Long before cameras started rolling and rap anthems pumped out the phrase Black Mafia Family, Demetrius Big Meech Flenory was working with his brother Terry, Southwest T Flenory, to build an underworld empire. Growing up in the gritty streets of Southwest Detroit in the 1980s, the brothers learned early on that money and power spoke louder than anything else in their environment. Together they formed BMF, an organization that would eventually leave an unshakable mark on hip-hop culture. At the start, Big Meech and Southwest T kept a low profile. They allegedly ran their operation like a tight-knit corporation, complete with lieutenants, coded language, and strategic fronts. While many street organizations fell apart due to internal betrayal, BMF seemed different. They had a bond that looked unbreakable from the outside. Over time, their influence spread far beyond Detroit, reaching into Atlanta, Los Angeles, and multiple other major cities. Their roster of associates read like a who's who of the urban underworld. But that wasn't the whole story. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, Big Meech became increasingly visible, showing up at glitzy hip-hop events and forming BMF Entertainment, a record label and promotional platform. They sponsored artists, hosted lavish parties, and openly flaunted their opulence. Their brand was about big money, bigger parties, and the biggest personalities. Young, hungry rappers aligned themselves with BMF for credibility and financial backing. For a while, it all looked unstoppable. However, law enforcement had been watching them for years.
You know, he's posturing himself this way so he doesn't have to give his relatives money.
I'm a man of the people, Curtis. I haven't forgotten my humble roots on a dirt road in South Carolina.
That's a good time to remember when your family's asking you. You're like, no, I was on a dirt road. How much do you want?
Although BMF's public persona seemed like that of a rap entertainment crew, investigators believed something else, that these parties and promotions were covers for moving massive weight across state lines. Eventually, the feds launched Operation Motor City Mafia, determined to dismantle BMF piece by piece. That slow build-up of pressure spelled disaster for everyone involved. It was only a matter of time before the cracks began to show. The turning point arrived in the early 2000s, when local and federal agencies joined forces. Operation Motor City Mafia went after BMF with a scalpel-like precision. They arrested lower-level affiliates, offering leniency to anyone willing to cooperate and wear wires. Each new arrest painted a clearer picture of BMF's nationwide scale, fueling further raids and sting operations. Rumors swirled that the government had a laundry list of people who had either turned informant or were ready to do so if caught. By 2005, Big Meech and Southwest T faced the inevitable. Raids on their properties uncovered millions of dollars in cash, luxurious homes, high-value cars, firearms, and more. Prosecutors alleged that BMF's fancy lifestyle was financed by one of the largest illegal operations in the country. Both brothers eventually found themselves in federal court, charged with conspiracy to distribute large quantities of illegal substances and laundering profits through various channels. The evidence was overwhelming, bolstered by wiretaps, testimonies, and a trail of suspicious financial transactions. In 2008, Big Meech received a 30-year sentence. While some people admired him for staying loyal, he famously refused to tell on his co-conspirators. Others questioned the full story. Was there more to Meech's sentencing than the public was told? As the years went by, the BMF legend only grew. Fans and supporters rallied, claiming that Big Meech had remained solid and never cracked under pressure. But prison time is long, and big surprises can happen behind bars. By the mid-2010s, whispers emerged that Meech's original 30-year term might be shortened. Speculation ran wild. Had he made a deal in exchange for early release? Was there another explanation for why the courts would suddenly take mercy on one of the most notorious figures in modern crime? In October 2024, it was revealed that Big Meech was walking free sooner than expected. His official release date was set for August 17th, 2025, but many believed he had already transitioned to a residential reentry program in Miami. Internet detectives started poring over legal documents, searching for evidence of cooperation. In an era where everyone hunts for scandal, the narrative practically wrote itself. Big Meech must have informed on someone to shave years off his time. Otherwise, how would he get out? That's when a new name started making regular appearances in the rumor mill: Tammy Cowens. Tammy Cowens initially entered the scene as Big Meech's trusted friend and business associate. She was so close to Meech that she eventually acquired the rights to his life story.
I was like, oh, what is Snoop doing that? Like that, because I'm just flashing through at different points in the Olympics. So certain parts of the Olympics that don't really have me excited.
Right, but he made it exciting too, though, bro. He was at like archery and you know what I'm saying. At horse.
Dre be into archery.
Oh yeah. I did archery with Dre at the house.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. That's some different kind of tax bracket stuff, though.
That's no noise, man. No noise. When you just feel a sharp pain in your sharp pain in your back, you know you're in the wrong place. You wasn't supposed to be in that yard.
An invaluable asset to anyone wanting to produce documentaries, films, or TV series about the BMF empire. If you wanted to tell Big Meech's official narrative, you needed Tammy on board. She held the keys, but then came the bombshell. Tanisa Welch, known in some circles as the First Lady of BMF, gave an interview revealing that Tammy was a government informant. According to Tanisa, she learned about Tammy's cooperation when Tammy allegedly orchestrated an attempt to send Tanisa back to prison. For Tanisa, it was a betrayal that cut deep. Here was someone who claimed to be Big Meech's best friend, yet at the same time was apparently working with the feds as a confidential source. This triggered a wave of suspicion among BMF loyalists. If Tammy was indeed an informant, did Big Meech know? Many found it impossible to believe that Meech, a savvy operator, would remain unaware of such a massive red flag. Yet even after these allegations surfaced, Meech continued collaborating with Tammy on projects, including the official BMF TV series. She appeared at red carpet events, posed for pictures, and engaged with Meech's inner circle. If she was truly an informant, why wouldn't Meech distance himself from her? That question fueled the rumor that Big Meech had cut his own deal with the government, with Tammy as the mediator. One theory claimed that Meech gave up details on certain associates, or possibly lined up new targets in exchange for a reduced sentence, while Tammy facilitated the entire arrangement from the outside. The idea sounded shocking, but gave an explanation for why Meech would still be connected to someone said to be a snitch. In the eyes of some fans, it tarnished the entire image of Meech as a loyal figure who'd never break the street code. From that point on, any move involving Tammy or BMF faced immediate scrutiny. 50 Cent, who had been working on the BMF series since 2019, was fully aware that Tammy was a key figure behind the scenes. Was he complicit, or did he simply turn a blind eye because he needed her for rights and production? The moment Big Meech teamed up with Rick Ross for a major concert, 50 Cent pulled out the Rat label, seemingly ignoring the fact that Tammy was his own collaborator too. The hypocrisy accusations began flying left and right. In early 2023, word spread that Big Meech was teaming up with Rick Ross for a welcome home event in Florida, timed around Meech's release. A splashy, high-profile concert was just the kind of media buzz that might overshadow everything else. Hip-hop fans were either excited for a monumental moment, BMF and Rick Ross uniting on stage, or they were stunned that someone with Meech's background would partner with a man who was once a correctional officer. For years, Rick Ross has been ridiculed by certain artists, including 50 Cent, for his past career in law enforcement. 50 Cent has repeatedly labeled Ross a fraud, accusing him of posing as a bigger-than-life hustler, while once collecting paychecks from the very system that locks people up. Their feud stretches back nearly 2 decades, encompassing lawsuits, social media disses, and personal attacks. In the 50s' eyes, Ross was the embodiment of everything fake in hip-hop, so when Big Meech turned around and announced a partnership with the self-proclaimed boss, it must have stung 50's pride. Here was a man he had gone to great lengths to elevate with a BMF TV show, suddenly betraying him by siding with one of his biggest rivals.
Because I don't think that it matters who's making more money. I think it matters the terms of the relationship, how you get involved in it, right? Because I think friendship is the strongest form of a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's why you have friends since first grade, and people place standards. You know what you should ask a person? You should ask them where their concept of a relationship is coming from. Because if their concept is coming from tradition, then it may not naturally match up with the way we live right now. We live in non-traditional times. This is modern times.
Immediately, 50 took to social media to unleash a storm of insinuations and memes, labeling Big Meech a rat and suggesting that a major documentary was in the works to reveal the truth about him and Tammy Cowens. The irony wasn't lost on the public. 50 Cent had spent years working side by side with Tammy, who had already been outed by multiple sources as a government informant. If 50 was truly outraged by informants, why did he stay silent while working with Tammy? That's when people realized the real issue might be simpler. 50 felt personally betrayed by Meech's move to team up with Rick Ross, the same man 50 has despised for ages. Ross, being Ross, wasn't about to let 50's tantrum slide. He went on social media to mock 50 Cent's outbursts, calling him a hurt hoe and telling him to stop mixing business with personal grudges. As far as Ross was concerned, Big Meech was just doing what made sense for his own brand and future, and 50 had no right to police his alliances. The stage was now set for a very public, very messy clash of egos, and the worst had yet to come. The internet lit up when 50 Cent posted photos of rats captioned with references to Big Meech and the truth. One of his more cryptic posts teased an upcoming documentary about Tammy Cowens, hinting that something explosive would surface, something that would expose Big Meech as a traitor to his own people. Fans and critics alike were left speculating about what 50 Cent had on Meech. Was he aware of some undisclosed paperwork proving cooperation with the feds? Behind the scenes, many observers questioned 50's motives. After all, he had known about Tammy's alleged informant background for years, so why was he only speaking out now? To many, the answer was obvious. Big Meech's alignment with Rick Ross crossed an unspoken line, threatening 50's sense of loyalty and control over the BMF narrative. In the 50's mind, Meech should have stayed loyal to the man who brought his story to television. Meanwhile, Big Meech's supporters were quick to label 50 Cent a hypocrite. If 50 is so anti-snitch, why was he happily collaborating with Tammy Cowens on the official BMF show? Some fans believed 50 was clutching at straws because he couldn't stand the idea of Meech working with his archenemy. Others argued that maybe 50 truly had discovered new evidence, something that would make anyone reevaluate what went down in those final months before Meech's release. This public back and forth fed straight into the rumor that Meech had indeed reduced his sentence by pointing authorities toward former associates, something that would normally be considered a major violation of the street code. While no official documentation has confirmed it, people found it peculiar that Meech was freed earlier than expected.
It's not one of those things that you play. Like, you can play basketball,
Yeah.
football, but you don't want to play boxing.
Yeah, but I do, well, and also I never looked like that. So how did you get into boxing?
I didn't do well in group sports.
Oh, see, we're opposite. I love a group sport.
I like to be where if I lose, it's my fault.
Oh.
Not that I know exactly why we lost, because you couldn't guard your man.
All while staying close to Tammy, who was repeatedly called out as a federal source. As the gossip spread, the situation got murkier. Some of Meech's old associates began speaking out, claiming that he'd sold them out. One of the loudest voices came from someone known as Cuffy, who directly accused Meech of setting him up for a bust. According to Cuffy and his daughter Tamara, Meech, in partnership with Tammy, arranged for Cuffy's downfall, an arrangement that gave federal agents everything they needed to bring charges against him. Whether that's the unfiltered truth or part of a vendetta, it added more fuel to an already raging fire. The story took a new turn when Tamara, Cuffy's daughter, released statements suggesting Big Meech had betrayed her father. She recounted how Cuffy had worked with Meech for decades, forging a business bond and a personal friendship that felt like family. Despite their long history, Tamara said Meech teamed up with Tammy Cowens to line up her father in a federal sting operation. Once the dust settled, Cuffy ended up behind bars, with a direct link tying his downfall to Meech. Cuffy himself then spoke in a leaked jail phone call describing how he originally partnered with Tammy to create a BMF movie script, not the TV series that later debuted on Starz. He insisted it was a legitimate venture at first, but as the partnership evolved, Tammy allegedly used her government connections to ensnare Cuffy and ultimately gather evidence for federal agencies. Hearing it from his own mouth made the accusation more potent and difficult to shrug off as mere rumor. This left many fans torn. On one hand, Big Meech was regarded as an almost mythical figure who stayed loyal under extreme pressure. On the other hand, the claims by Cuffy and Tamara painted a dark picture of manipulation and betrayal. Were the rumors true, or was this just another attempt to smear Meech's name? Adding to the confusion is the fact that Meech has never openly addressed these accusations, maintaining a stance of silence that some interpret as guilt. Whack 100, a polarizing figure in the hip-hop community, chimed in with his take. He criticized Meech for continuing to work with Tammy Cowens even after learning she had allegedly cooperated with the government. Whack 100 suggested Meech had compromised himself for financial gain and brand protection, implying that loyalty had taken a back seat to making money. If there was any solid chance that Tammy was behind multiple arrests, how could Meech justify walking the red carpet alongside her for the BMF premiere? As the swirl of accusations, denials, and partial confirmations continued, it became nearly impossible to separate fact from speculation. The entire situation opened a bigger conversation about loyalty in the street world versus practicality in the entertainment industry.
I took him to, because I was tied up on the day. I took him to like the Sugar Factory.
Is that a strip club?
It's something like that. It's almost like that for kids. But it's you know, it got all of the candy, all of the colors.
Oh, it's a candy store. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, all right.
They got food.
Even that's confusing, the candy store thing, yeah.
When big checks and mainstream success are on the line, do the old rules of no snitching still apply, or does everyone simply look out for themselves? The conflicting narratives have left fans and critics scrutinizing every snippet of information, hoping for a definitive piece of evidence that will exonerate or implicate Big Meech once and for all. After all the name-calling and finger-pointing, one thing is crystal clear. The line between loyalty and hypocrisy can be razor thin in a world where personal bonds intersect with corporate deals. 50 Cent accuses Big Meech of being an informant for aligning with Rick Ross, a former correctional officer and longtime rival, while seemingly forgetting his own close relationship with Tammy Cowens, an alleged government cooperator. Meanwhile, Meech continues to project confidence. He shows no sign of backing down, even with old friends like Cuffy claiming he was sold out. Is 50 Cent genuinely concerned about street codes, or is he simply lashing out because he feels Meech should have stayed loyal to him and never joined forces with Rick Ross? Did Big Meech broker a secret arrangement for early release, trading the downfall of former allies for his own freedom? Or is it all an orchestrated drama, a high-stakes dance of blame and bravado that keeps fans watching? Right now, hard proof is scarce, and each side has a different tale to tell. What's undeniable is that the BMF saga remains as explosive as ever, and every new accusation only fans the flames. The truth may lie in sealed paperwork, carefully hidden phone records, or backroom deals that no one is willing to discuss in public. Until then, we're left to watch the tension unfold, ask ourselves who's playing who, and remember that in a high-stakes game of survival and success, almost anything is possible. So where do you stand on all this? Has Big Meech sacrificed his own people to shave years off his prison time? Or is 50 Cent simply flexing his social media might to punish someone he feels betrayed him? The final verdict may not come anytime soon, but one thing's for sure, the drama swirling around Big Meech, 50 Cent, Rick Ross, and Tammy Cowens isn't dying down. Keep your eyes on the headlines because this story is far from over.